In 1914 France, a 16-year-old boy named Roger is coming home from school for the summer. The maid named Mrs. Muller, his mother, sent in a horse cart to meet him. Along the way, not long after, they get to a beautiful house where Roger's mother and Aunt Margaret are waiting to greet him. An office worker named Ursula helps him with his things and asks him if he remembers her. He says yes. He is then introduced to Frank, an old friend of his dad's. Once he gets inside, Roger's little sister Berta greets him with a hug. After that, Berta and Roger go for a walk in the forest and see Mrs. Muller picking fruit. Roger is surprised. Later that night, Roger is having dinner with his family. His mom is very strict and tells him to be good while he eats. Roger gets up from dinner and goes to his room, but he hears noises outside. Roger sees Bertie on his bed when he gets back to his room and goes to sleep. It seems like she can't sleep and really wants to talk to her brother, whom she has missed a lot. Bertie says their mother told her that Aunt Margaret has never been with a man because she is afraid of them. Roger wants to know why Frank and his aunt aren't together. Bertie tells him that it's because Frank is very ugly and weird. Just then, Kate, Bertha's maid, comes in and tells her off for getting out of bed. The girl runs back to her room quickly. Bertha and Roger go to a stream to watch their maid. There are 3 guys walking by who are Roger's housekeepers while they are talking. They start to show the maids across the river, which Roger finds completely unbelievable. Elisa, Roger's elder sister, comes home with their dad later. In the house, Elisa gives everyone a hug, but only Roger a kiss on the forehead. After that, his dad talks to the family about his company that sells badges to soldiers. But since there isn't a war, his business isn't succeeding. Roger is later scolded by a helper. Consequently, he escapes and joins Bertie at church. Their plan is to hide in the roof and listen to confessions, but Bertie gets bored and leaves. Margaret then walks in and starts to say she's sorry. She has always been afraid of guys, but Roger has made her feel good. She likes to think about him and even wants to right into the priest's arms. The priest then tells Roger's mother, who asks that he be punished. To teach Roger a lesson, the priest tells them to hit him with a wild bush. This makes sense to Roger's mother, who asks Margaret to punish him. In the meantime, Roland, Elisa's fiancé, walks into the house. Margaret isn't sure at first, but her sister talks her out of it, and she agrees and whips him. While this is going on, Ursula and Berta watch from the window and feel bad for Roger. Later, Berta hugs and kisses her brother goodbye to make him feel better. Shortly after, Roger hears Helena when he gets back if he was also angry as a kid, and Frank says that he still is. Roger hears sounds coming from his parents' room as he walks back. Roland sees that he is looking through their opening with interest. Roger urges Roland not to tell anyone about him, and Roland does what Roger asks. Because of this, Roland asks Roger to wash his car tomorrow. Roger does not want to wash Roland's car the next morning. He puts a bucket of water where Roland will trip and fall. Roger then sneaks into the chicken house, walks into the stable out of the blue, making Roger quickly hide. When Helena comes in a moment later to feed the chickens, the helper locks her in through the window and goes outside to be with her. Helene sees Roger and asks him to help her. Right before he was going to help, she told him to wait. Roger starts to feel uneasy, but the helper is already gone by the time he... After a while, Roger finds his mom with Roland and Elisa. Roland is annoyed that his boots are dirty and tells Roger to clean them, but Roger says no. Roland gets very angry about it. Sadly, though, another maid walks in and stops what they're doing. Now that Roger is getting antsy, he sees Miss Muller and decides to make out with her. After following her to tell them that the war has started and Germany is attacking France. Roger's dad is very happy that the war has begun at home because it means he can start growing his business. Due to the war, all of Roger's family men will have to join the service, although Frank says he can't fight because of his asthma. Next, Roland and Elisa say their last words to each other before Roland goes for the war. Roger is not old enough to fight, so he stays behind while the other guys go into war. He is so happy that he is the only guy in a house full of women, and he praises God for giving him this chance. Ursula later asks Roger to help her take a mattress upstairs. Roger runs into Berta on his way out. She makes fun of him and asks what happened, but he doesn't give a clear answer. Roger agrees to listen in with her as they listen to their mother's confession to the priest. Their mother talks about the problems she has to deal with because of her husband's dreams during the thing they want, without it being wrong. Suddenly, the mother hears her kids laughing and yells at them for being in her space. After that, Kate is brushing her hair by the river when Roger jumps out of the water and surprises her. His question is why she never sat by the river before. Roger's father comes home that night for a short visit because he is a colonel and can come and go as he pleases. Roger sees Margaret and Kate sneaking a peek into his parents' room that night. When he opens the door and walks in, he sees his parents acting out a scene. Surprisingly, they find Roger in their room and kick him out. The following day, Roger sees that Frank has a box, so he follows the man up to the attic and sees him look. Helen brings Roger tea later, and no one else grabs her in the hallway. At that moment, he sees Elisa and follows her to the stable. Roger offers to take Elisa's shoes off while she scrubs her horse. Soon, all but his mother's female relatives in the house. As the jet goes by, she pulls Roger behind a tree so Roland can't see them. Roland comes ashore and tells everyone that the war is over and that all of the guys have come back. After realizing how bad things are, Roger starts to think of ways to win this game. That night, Ursula walks into Roger's room and tells him she is going to have a baby. He tells her to bring him a bottle of red nail paint before she leaves. Margaret then comes in and tells him that she is also pregnant. Roger tells her to marry her Uncle Frank to stay out of trouble. Roger shows Ursula to Elisa's room when she comes back with the red nail paint. There, he tells Ursula to paint his sister's sheets with nail polish. Because Elisa is so mad, he tells her to call Roland and tell him they need to make love right away. Roger then checks with Kate in her room to see if she's pregnant. To his relief, she tells him she's not. He finally goes up to Ursula and asks her to marry him, but she says no because she is already in love with someone else. After some time, all three women get married on the same day, which ends Roger's problems. His summer break is over after a few days, and he gets ready to go to school. Helene shows up at that moment and tells him that she is also pregnant. Helene tells Roland that he doesn't need to find her a husband because several guys in this house have already been with her. Anyway, she'll blame whoever she wants and marry him. Following this, Roger departs for the city, and the movie ends.